All right, everybody, it's Andreas Hale, senior combat sports writer over the Sporting News, and I'm here with Beneil Dariush, who's fighting Charles Oliveira at UFC 289 in the co-main event. Beneil, I know everybody asks how you're doing, but seriously, how much is the blood pumping? Because you're fighting Charles Oliveira, who's never in a bad fight. You know how you fight. This has got to be kind of exciting for you.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I'm not excited for this fight or whatever. Watching him, and watching his fights, and preparing for this fight, it does get the blood pumping and blood boiling, and so I look forward to getting my hands on this man and seeing how this fight goes.
Do you remember the last time that you've had a fight with an opponent that you knew that, man, it could be potentially like a fight of the night, some fireworks? Like you don't know how it's going to play out, but it's definitely going to be exciting.
To be honest with you, I had this similar feeling for the last fight that I had because Gamrot. I watched him fight Arman Sarukian, and everybody's like, Arman's a future champion, and this and that. And the fight they had was amazing. They had one of the best fights I've ever seen. And so after watching that, I remember I even called my manager and I said, I want to fight these guys. Well, it doesn't matter which one, but I want to fight these guys. So um, last fight had me pretty pumped, and this fight is the same thing. I'm pretty pumped for this one.
8 wins in a row. Immediately, everybody talks about, why hasn't Beneil had a title opportunity yet? But I want to ask you, have you talked to Bilal Muhammad about this? Because he's been in a similar situation as you, two guys on these impressive winning streaks. And it's like, can I get a title shot or what?
I have not talked to him about it, but we have the same manager, and I understand how they do what they do, and I understand why they do what they do. So I get it, and I'm not bitter about it. I could care less as long as you keep throwing at me dogs like Charles Oliveira, Gamrot, or whoever. As long as you give me the best fighters in the world, you won't hear me complain.
But what about this? Let's just say they keep throwing these names at you. Let's just say for whatever reason, Ismail Makhachev gets hurt, can't fight in Abu Dhabi, they throw another name at you. Do you get to a point where if you become champion, there's no opponents left because you beat them all? Has that crossed your mind?
I mean, that never happens because there's the whole rematches and then there's new contenders. There's all to be honest with you, in my opinion, in the lightweight division, there is a new guard that is on the heels of the old guard, and I think the new guard is better. They're more well rounded, and I think they're going to take over eventually. And I want to be, and I know I'm the old guard, but I want to be an exemption to the rule, not the I want to go out there and I want to stand at the top of these guys. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think there's always going to be somebody for me to fight, but um, either I fight him when I have the belt or I fight him now. I could care less.
Who is part of this new guard? Who do you look at and you see coming as like, damn, he's going to be really tough?
Oh, I think Gamrot is definitely one of them. I think Arman Sarukian, Fazeev, um, um, Jalen Turner, I think he's very good. You have a couple of other guys. Grant Dawson, he's very good. Um, if I look at the list, it'd be a lot easier. But there's definitely a lot of new guys that are very good and they have a lot of potential. And so I do think about those guys. And even guys like Thiago Moises, we've fought before and he was young, but I do believe he has potential to grow and to be a threat to the to anybody.
You know what's interesting? Like, they say in like basketball and football, they're young man's games, right? But it feels like MMA, you don't really hit your stride until you get 30 and you really start figuring these things out. And it seems like a lot of the young fighters, they take their lumps early and they get better later. Do you think that MMA is not really built to be a young man's game? The seasoning really helps?
I think so. There's so much you got to absorb, right, in terms of information, and then be able to take all that information and take it from theory into the practical. That is not an easy thing to do. So I think sometimes, like you said, you have to take the lumps to gain the experience in order to apply those techniques and the game plans and all that stuff. But I also think here's another thing. Even in other sports, you look at football, guys are getting older and they're doing well. You look at basketball, guys are getting older and doing well. And I think it has a lot to do with with recovery, recovery things that have to do with recovery. You know, the ice baths of the world, whether it be the oxygen tanks. I'm just trying to think the saunas, whatever, and then the physical therapy aspect of it. So I think the more athletes humble themselves and do these things, it seems like their lifespan in terms of athletes is growing, right? And if you think about it, if you got a 30-year-old with his experience who feels just as strong as he did when he was 20, uh, he's going to do pretty well, right? He's going to have much more experience. He's going to do really well. Now take that same idea, apply it to a 40-year-old who still feels strong, who in reality has just as good of a gas tank, and he's just as motivated. And finally, the most important part, he's still healthy. That is a dangerous person. I'm not saying I'm trying to fight when I'm 40, but I see why there's these 40-year-olds still doing so well.
So let's talk about the fight itself. I mean, obviously, this fight got pushed back a little bit. I've seen your theories on why maybe Charles Oliveira overtrained a little bit. But where do you think he is at in his career at this particular point? He's had a touch of the gold. He may feel like he wants it back, but do you think he still has the same hunger that he had when he was climbing back up the ladder several years ago?
You know, I don't know. I can't give you a clear answer on that. Let me tell you how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the hungriest Charles Oliveira, the best version of Charles Oliveira, and I'm thinking of him like this. If I was Charles Oliveira, how do I make myself the best version? I would say add more to his defense because he's already very aggressive in terms of offense, and you know, make tweaks there. And that's the best version I can think of Oliveira. That's the guy I'm preparing for.
Beneil, why don't you talk any trash? You don't demand anything. You're very you come to the sport. You're a gentleman of the sport. There's not a lot of fighters like you out in this world. Why do you stay that way?
So, you know, I'm a devout Christian, and that is one of the true reasons why I don't act like everybody else. I believe Christians should be counterculture. We should not be following culture like everybody else. You know, I'm supposed to love my neighbor as myself, and out of respect for God, out of love for God, I'm supposed to to reflect him basically. And then reason number two is my kids, man. I have two daughters, two beautiful daughters, right? As of now, I don't know. By the time I'm older, maybe I'll have like 10 kids or something. That's the game plan anyways. When I'm older and I'm retired, and I will tell my kids, hey, this is how you need to act. This is the person you need to be. And if you're not, you know, you're doing it wrong. Obviously, no one's perfect and everybody's going to end up being a hypocrite at some point. But I want them to look at my interviews and be like, you know what? My dad has said that and he's acted it out. And so that's something that I actually that I want for my kids in the future. So if they ever do look at my interviews and be like, you know what? He did what he said and I'm hoping that's something they could have for the rest of their life.
You're a girl dad. So do your daughters watch you fight?
My last fight, my daughter did, which was really weird, you know. She was at the fight. I don't think she understood the situation, but here's the weird thing. Obviously, she normally takes at that time she was taking two naps a day. For that day, I don't know if she could feel my energy or what, she wouldn't sleep. She was so worried she wouldn't sleep. That was one thing. And then right after the fight, it was over. I don't know what she got from the fight, right? She obviously watched it with my wife. She was right by the cage. Right after the fight, she not only fell asleep, but she woke up sick. So I don't know if she gets anything out of it, but I do know it was stressful on her, and I felt kind of bad to be honest.
Wow, how old's your daughter? The oldest?
At that time, she was 18 months. She's gonna be two my weigh-ins day, so June 9th.
Oh, so right around the corner. So wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something you definitely got to deal with. Let's talk about the rest of this division. I've seen you talk about Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier's fight. This BMF title, though, what do you think of titles that are just kind of made up? Do they? I'm not saying that you necessarily want to fight for one, but do you understand why it even exists? Does it make sense to you?
Oh no, I totally get why it exists. It definitely draws more eyes, and you know it's something to talk about. Look, we're talking about it right now, right? So there's that aspect of it, and then it's something you give to special athletes. Maybe they're not champions, but there's definitely something special about them. Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, that they're great examples of that, right? But so is Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier. They're also good examples of that. These are guys um, built for war. These are guys who go kill or die, and so I don't really have like I don't hate the belt or like the belt. I'm very neutral towards the BMF belt, but I also understand it brings in more views, so I'm okay with it. I don't have an issue with it. I'm just really excited about the fight. I think it's a great fight.
How do you think that fight plays out?
I am leaning towards Justin Gaethje. I think he's made a lot of improvements in terms of his feints, his change of direction, and just overall ability. That being said, the problem with fighting a guy like Dustin Poirier is very good with the basics, but here's what makes him super special. He gets better with every round, and he gets better at his basics with every round. So they get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. So he is I think that's a very rare talent. It's not something you see often for someone to get better in terms of technique round by round. Even when he's tired, the his striking technique is so clean. And I don't know how he trains. I'm not sure if it's something with his training or it's just a mindset of his. But I have to I recognize his skill when it comes to stand up. He has something very special.
So you're leaning towards Gaethje. So let's just say you win your fight against Oliveira. Makhachev is something happens, he's not able to fight in October. You're offered a fight with either Gaethje or Poirier for the BMF title. Does that excite you, or is that something? Or do you say I might want to just wait for Islam to get healthy because I don't want to mess around and have a fight and be hurt or somebody else leapfrogs me? What is your thoughts?
If I love fighting, so if an opportunity to fight is there, I'll probably take it. If I'm healthy, I'll probably take the fight. As I don't care about the BMF belt or the UFC belt. I mean, I do care in terms of as an athlete, I want to do my best, and the best is to get that belt, right? So I do care in that aspect, but I don't want to give up opportunities to fight the best guys in the world. I want to jump on those opportunities, whether it's Gamrot, Arman Sarukian, Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev. I want to get on these fights. And so if I have an opportunity to fight Poirier, for sure. Justin Gaethje's a little bit tricky because we've trained together before and I consider him a friend and he's a very nice guy. So it would be difficult, and we've spoken about it too. For the belt, for the UFC belt, I would not get in the way of his dreams, and I would expect him to not get in the way of my dreams. So for the UFC belt, I guess we would fight each other, but that's where I've drawn the line on that.
What would Beneil Dariush look like with a BMF title? It feels like it would be the craziest thing carrying around the BMF title because you're such a nice dude.
I think what you would call that is the Twilight Zone.
I think so as well. All right, so let's get back to the Charles Oliveira fight. In the sense of the grappling, the striking, he can turn into a madman sometimes. You've shown that you can do the same exact thing. And I know you prepare for everything, but do you visualize this fight? Do you see where this fight is probably going to go? Or do you just kind of go with how it feels?
The goal is not where the fight goes, but what I do. With every single thing I do, there has to be a purpose and a reason behind it. And so, with that idea in mind, I plan on dominating this fight. That is my goal for this fight. Lord willing, things go my way. But as far as game plan goes, that's my game plan basically. It is to not give an inch to this guy.
Are you more excited about ground exchanges or the stand up in this fight?
It's hard to say, but I'll say ground exchanges, but not by much. No, just a little bit more excited to see what his ground is about. I think he's actually more dangerous in the stand up, and that's where his submissions come from. But either way, I'm ready to go.
So last question, Beneil. You win this fight, they put the microphone in your face. Do you kindly ask for a title opportunity, or just say whatever's next? How does Beneil get on this mic? And does he ask for it finally? Because you don't really ask, you don't demand, but can we see that at UFC 289?
I don't think I need to ask. I think I'll stick to what I've been doing. I'll thank God and I'll move forward from there. And you know, I've said this before. I am not a beggar. I will do what I need to do in order to earn what I need to earn. You know, that's how it is. Um, yeah, I just at this point, like, why would I even ask? Like, what is there to ask for? Like, who, how would I? Why would I need to ask? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Gotcha, Beneil. Well, appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Good luck next week. This is a fight that everybody's been looking forward to. So, as much as you're excited, we're going to be excited to watch it. So, good luck, and I hope I get to talk again to you in the future.
Thank you, brother. You
All
take
right.
care.
You too. Take it easy.